This conference will now be recorded.
Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Holly, can you do roll call for us, please?
Yes. Can you all hear me online?
Yes.
Okay. Luke Erfelding,
Present, representing communication centers.
Mindy Benson,
Mindy Benson, present, representing Iowa Emergency Managers.
Curtis Wilton,
Present, representing EMS.
Michelle Bischoff, she is gone. David Ness,
Here representing municipal police.
Jeff Vanderwater,
Present, representing sheriff's offices.
Patrick Updike,
Present, member at large.
and do we have any legislative members on? Okay, we do have a quorum.
All right. Thanks to everyone that made it either in person or on the phone. Nice day, a little dusty out there, but hopefully we can get through this quickly and go enjoy the nice weather. First is the approval of today's agenda. We have a motion.
Second by Benson.
Did somebody make a motion on that?
A motion.
Who was it? Benson? Benson was first.
First made the motion, Benson second, right?
I'm sorry, I thought there was a motion in the room. But if not, I'll make a
Okay.
motion.
Do we have a second?
Mindy made the motion, and I think.
Okay, so we have the motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And that passes. Thank you. The next order of business is approval of meeting minutes from September 12th, 2024. Do we have a motion for that?
Purple make motion.
Ness, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That approval of meeting minutes motion passes. Next up is the SWIC report with SWIC Nickel.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Dyke. So Motorola Upgrade Operations kickoff meetings have happened this past week. Maybe you've seen those. The slides did go out in emails. Let us know if you need access to those. I attended the Central States COMEX in Joplin, Missouri. That's why I missed the meeting last month. It was a really great experience. I would urge anyone interested in an exercise to plan for this event in 2026. It happens every 2 years. It's a five and a half hour drive from Des Moines. And the people and resources that attend are really pretty outstanding for that close to home. The largest communications exercise in the nation, probably the world, Lake House. So much so that other regions and states are attending to learn how to replicate it. Lots of good things were happening at that event. I hope to have more Iowa teams there in the future. I also want to talk quickly about the Iowa teams that attended in 2024 or last month, because they did make a significant impact. There were 29 states represented and 314 individual registrants from the numbers that they showed on the screen. During the closing ceremonies, there were only 2 honors given. Iowa was called to the stage for both of those honors, and Iowa had 2 teams there, underscoring our state's leadership and interoperable communications. The Story County team earned accolades for their outstanding teamwork and dedication. On the first day of the exercise, they secured first place in the 9 Fog Escape Room Challenge. When their time was surpassed on day 2, they were undeterred and took on the more complex Isicsb escape room box, a task that is typically requiring 2 hours and was not initially part of the event because of that time constraint. but driven by their competitive spirit, strong leadership, and team unity, they completed that challenge 30 minutes faster than any previous team ever had. And then the other team was Iowa's 71st Civil Support Team with the National Guard, and SFC Mills was at the event working toward his COM-L and was acknowledged by his evaluator for exceptional, innovative insight and forethought, hard work, and dedication in the communication exercise. So everyone here should be very proud of Iowa's representation down at the COMEX. It was pretty amazing that out of 29 states, and Iowa had 2 teams there, and both teams were called to the stage for only those 2 awards. Nick Brasigno has also successfully completed the NIMS All Hazard Communications Unit Leader Train the Trainer course. He traveled to Urbana, Illinois to obtain that certificate. So now he's capable of training the COML courses here in Iowa. Congratulations to Nick, and thanks to Story County for their extensive support of the COMU program and the personal growth and development of their people and interoperability across the state. This will help many agencies in the long term and help Iowa to hold more courses with some constraints that are put on the state in being able to hold courses and get courses approved through CISA. I attended my first amateur radio event hosted by the Montgomery County Aries Group on September 21st for a field day operations day. I was able to see some HF or high frequency demonstrations where we communicated with the states of California and Washington. Earlier in the day I missed it when they were speaking with Switzerland and Berlin, so I thought that was kind of fun. Next week, there'll be the NINA and APCO events. MTUB will be held here, and I will attend ICS 400 in Tama County for your awareness. Just a reminder that the RIC2 meetings are held monthly for each region. Those committee meetings are sometimes well attended and sometimes not. So I'll be making a real effort to ask current members to intentionally try to attend those meetings in the next month or 2, and then to go ahead and invite a person to come with you, either from an Essex county or agency that you interop with regularly, or from your own agency that is not yet involved in Essex. So I've sent those emails out, but please just remember those meetings. They're a good place to share ideas and questions or concerns. We've had some good conversations in specifically the RIC 1 yesterday. We had a really good conversation and lots of participation. There's a lot happening up in RIC 4 for RIC 2, for instance, right now. That would be a great place to have those conversations. And I'm really interested in growing those meetings. And then yesterday, incident popped up where it reminded us the importance of the use of status board. Check it if you have that opportunity as dispatchers to check status board before you dedicate a talk group to your event. But if you find that you've dedicated a talk group and you're going to status board secondarily, and there's a discrepancy and something is already happening on that talk group, the best practice would be to coordinate directly with that other agency via the radio, via that dispatcher, and coordinate on the ground, on the fly, and determine who is there first, who should move off, and do it on the radio so everyone has the awareness of what's going on. And what happened was somebody called me and tried to get me to coordinate, and that's just wasting time and energy. It's fine in that I can help, but there's a life-threatening incident going on. So the best practice is on the radio, talk to each other, and determine which next best talk group is the choice. So use status board. It's a really great resource. It's there for that purpose. And if something like that happens, just talk to each other on the radio. And that's all I have for everybody today, unless there's any questions for me.
Okay, thanks for that report. Next up is the 911 Council report. Is Blake with us today?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Just as a reminder that the 911 Council meeting does occur just before the Isicsb meeting. So if you're interested in a more in-depth dive on 911 topics, please feel free to join us. We also do record those and post them to YouTube for viewing later. Just a couple notes, and really this is just a number of kind of upcoming touch points and opportunities for learning sessions. The first is October 29th. We are holding a GIS informational call. That will be with some of our private sector partners, Geocom, Comtech, and Zetron. And really what that is for is about the first 30 minutes will be information sharing. And then we want to open the doors and have the last 30 minutes be basically question and answer. So really kind of how the GIS data that is managed locally gets into the 911 system and how it all interacts. So I've sent that out as information. And if you don't have that or it's not familiar and want to participate, just let me know. The next one is the PSAP Leadership Training, November 19th. This is the course that we developed for dispatch supervisors, folks that are in charge of 911 at within the counties, maybe 911 service board members. So this is currently full. We opened up a few more slots and those filled up as well. So this is training that we normally try to hold about twice a year, and it has admittedly been a little while since we've held that, so not surprised that it is full and that folks are interested in it. So we'll make sure to hold that again in the near future. But just again, letting everyone know that that course is going on. And then finally, don't have a specific date on this yet, but sometime in January, we will be holding informational webinar with the 988 folks. So 988 is the National Suicide Hotline managed by HHS. There are 2 988 centers in Iowa, and it's been a while since we've really kind of shared information with that program. We have a number of PSAPs that are involved in a pilot project and have been for a while with transfers to 988 and back into 911. So it's just going to be a touch point on catching up with where that project is, and then additional training for PSAPs who are interested in future transfers and cooperation with the folks at 988. So that is in January. More to come on that though as we go. Any questions for me? Otherwise, that concludes my brief.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next up is the Youth Group Committee with Chair Vandewater.
So the user group met on September 19th with 7 members or 7 participants were present. We had no RIC reports. There was no applications to review. Swift Nichols presented proposed changes to 2.8.0 and 5.1.0. There was little discussion, a few changes to the versions that were emailed to us. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Chair Vandewater? Next up is Finance Committee. And Michelle's not here, so.
Haley, did you want me to go over that?
Sure, Dan, you can take that.
Okay. The Finance Committee met on October 8th with Michelle not there. Reviewed the numbers. The only anomaly was we had Haley's travel to that event that would be out of the ordinary. Otherwise, it was a very regular month and looked good.
Okay, any questions for Finance Committee? All right, up next is Governance Committee Chair Neff.
Haley, if willing, since I was unable to attend on Monday, if you'd be willing to give a summary of that discussion.
Absolutely. The Governance Committee met on October 7th. We also reviewed 2.8 and 5.1 that the User Group Committee has finalized just to give awareness. Those are up today in the new business. Also, revisions were made to 2.3.0. Holly, do you have that pull up? we'd like to share with the board some unsubstantial changes that are made to this system login naming maintenance standard is the name of it. Very few grammatical changes made to this. If you slowly scroll through, Holly, you can see that some language, just the names of the court. Yeah, no. And the major thing that was changed down here at the bottom is the assumptions, liabilities, and costs. We read through these three final sentences at the bottom, talked with system administrators and the Isicsb oversight committees, and determined that they really didn't add anything to the standard and were already taken care of in the memorandum of agreement and other places. So these are considered unsubstantial changes. So these will just be finalized, and this standard will be added back into the tri-annual rotation. Also began review of Standard 7.1, which is called Standards Compliance Procedure, and we'll be making some revisions to that standard over the next couple of governance meetings to lay out a more specific evaluation process. You can take a look at that standard. It's obviously online, but step-by-step process when there are incidents that could make grave changes or grave damage to the system. And that's the report.
Any questions for Haley? Up next is Operations Committee Chair Orpilding.
Operations met last Thursday, October 2nd, and I was unable to attend, so Swick has offered to give her a report.
I will take that. That Operations Committee was led by Vice Chair Hoffman and myself. Again, that committee reviewed the 2.8 and 5.1 very carefully, and then they talked about standard 2.4.1. That's the bidirectional amplifier standard that has been looked at by technology and operations. They'll keep making progress on that, and that is the operations report.
Any questions for Haley on operations? Up next is Training and Outreach Committee. Chair Wogan.
I'm kind of with everybody else right now. I'm still kind of getting into the swing of it and coming up to speed on stuff. So Haley has also offered to read the notes from that meeting also.
Absolutely. So Chair Wogan is the new chair of that committee. Thank you, sir. They met on September 19th, just introduced into the group and what that committee is working on. I think on the back table are the 3 white papers, and you can grab a copy of those. Holly can bring them up for the group if you'd like. After today, we will post those to the educational tab of our Isicsb website. There was a lot of work by the committee. Oh, there we go. But specifically, Liam Crabb and Gabe Starling on those papers. They have been reviewed and revised many times, vetted by Isicsb committees, specifically technology and specifically the system administrators. They are technical white papers. And like I said, after today, they'll be published to our website for people to review their, let me see Luke's copies here. Two-way communication patching, push-to-talk over land mobile radio, and radio registration, affiliation, and scanning. So very helpful if people need to review those. And that's the training and outreach report.
Any questions for Haley on training and outreach? Up next is technology, and Haley will not be taking this one. Come on. So the technology met on September 26th and October 1st. We have a 3.11.0 standard that we've been dealing with since late last year as a part of a review. And so we've gone through this, we tabled it for a couple months because of other things, but it addresses talk group site access and roaming. It's obviously up on the agenda later on for a 30-day comment, but this is one of those things that we feel like we wanted to get through it, get it off our plate, get it out there, and be done with this review. So hopefully we can see this 3 years from now. We did a review on 2.8.0, 5.1.0, and you can see those on the agenda later. And we're also dealing with 2.4.1, which is your bidirectional amplifier topic. This is probably going to be a long, drawn-out subject just because it's so fluid and diverse and whatever else you want to call it. So we'll be addressing that as the days go by. I've been trying to track, this is kind of different. I'm going to ask Scott or Dave on this one, or Haley, but I've been trying to track the 6 additional conventional 700 meg channels. I did pull up the FRN that houses all of, or most of all of the frequencies that are licensed with DTS. I went through all of those and I don't see that yet. So I'm kind of wondering, my question to Scott or Dave is, are those 6 additional frequencies under that FRN? And if they aren't, what is it? I cannot find those frequencies yet. And is it that long to get a license assigned to those frequencies?
And we'll have to check with Dave. He's usually the one that handles those licenses.
Yeah.
We can look through the documentation that he has as well, so.
Yeah.
Well, I know we got the thing that said they were approved, but we also have a bill from APCO for the coordination, and that has not been paid. If we have the invoice, and Sandra has that bill, so is that what is the holdup too?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I don't know. I thought maybe there was something that I was just overlooking, and I would ask if you guys might know.
The 700, 800, conventional.
Yeah, the 6 additional frequencies that we set up for, to follow the frequencies also known as ITOT. And we were going to set those up for additional conventional resources, with 3 of them being encrypted. So the question is have you seen a license call sign come out on those yet? And is it under your existing FRN?
Is that what you paid the bill for?
we got the invoice, and Sandra's working that.
I can look. I'll have to log in and look. I don't.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you knew something that I didn't, because I mean, I did look at that FRN, I went through all of them, and I couldn't see anything.
I'd say Haley's probably right. It's probably pending payment before they, I would suspect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just informational,
Sure.
so appreciate that. Other than that, I don't have anything else for the technology report.
Or, sorry, usually they'll email me a copy of the license once it's issued, the official copy, and I have that received, an official copy.
Okay. That's great. I mean, I was just kind of curious to see where that was at. So, if you get something, let me know. Because I'll go ahead and update the ICS 217A form once that comes in, and then push that out to Holly. So, thanks. Up next is the FirstNet Broadband Subcommittee, Chair Benson.
Yes, thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I'm a bit under the weather, but we met on the 24th of September, and during that time, we continued our discussion on how to bring forth FirstNet users on board with who's on FirstNet. Holly's put that in the newsletter, so we'll continue to put that in the newsletter and work with our members on try to get people on board with who's on FirstNet. AT&T also presented the FirstNet coverage update, so we had a wonderful discussion on that. There'll be further briefings provided by our AT&T partners a little later on in the meeting. So if there's anyone interested in joining our committee, please reach out to myself or Holly to get your name added to our distribution list. And then we will pick up. We did not have a meeting this month just because our September meeting and our October meeting would have been so close together. But we will pick up with our regular meetings again in November. So I'll take any questions if anybody has anything. If not, I will turn it back over to you all. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Up next is other reports, information sharing with board members.
I forgot to give Wally the floor. He has something to talk about with the flooding down south.
I just received an email earlier this week. I was on vacation, so I haven't had a chance to follow up with him, but Zach Ellison from Homeland Security and Emergency Management, there apparently are EMAC requests out from the Carolinas looking for COMELs. So if that's something that you are a credentialed and qualified COMEL in the state of Iowa and you're interested in deploying out of state, there might be a need. I will tell you that the EMAC process, which is an Emergency Mutual Aid Compact, the HSEMD folks would be the experts on that. I touched on it briefly. It's a complex process. You'd be working with HSEMD to figure out what the expenses and the costs would be to mobilize you. They would then respond to that state's request and then work out the details. It's not an easy process. It's not, and this isn't I would say more than likely you're not going in where this isn't a learning opportunity. You're going to fill these shoes. So if you're comfortable in that role, getting thrown into something, a whole new territory, they're a good experience. It certainly isn't for everyone, and the process is a little bit long. Basically, the takeaway is if it's something you're interested in, reach out to Haley or myself, and we'll get you in touch with the right people. It's not a thing that the SWC's office necessarily will have much to do other than, offering the opportunity, but wanted to make sure that people are aware of that request is out. I don't know on Milton, the recent hurricane that just went through Florida. I don't know if there's new requests coming out for that area as well. This was related to the flooding in the Carolinas and Tennessee area was, I believe, were these initial requests. So I think it's going to be a long process for them to get back on their feet, and so this might be an ongoing thing. But we've talked about how the COMU program is a national program, if you will. State of Iowa, of course, is teaching and has those courses available, and this is one of those ways that curriculum and that experience and that qualification can be taken outside of the borders of Iowa if the stars align properly.
Hey, Wally, this is Blake. I'm still on, and I'm actually one of the other hats that I wear within our department is I'm the EMAC coordinator, and I've actually also been out the last couple days. So I hadn't seen those come in, but if anyone does have any questions or if it has any interest, I can give you a lot of information as well, and would actually be the person probably working through that individual to get out the door. And you described the process well.
Okay. I was going to say, correct anything I said because
Nope.
my experience is limited, but I know it's a complex.
It is. There's a bit of paperwork on the front end, but really it makes sense when you think about it, for compensation, benefits, God forbid anything happens, and you get hurt or worse down there. So all of that stuff has to be, there's a lot of paperwork involved, but as you also pointed out, it's very rewarding. You get a lot of good experience that you can then bring back to the state of Iowa as well. And just in general with the hurricanes, there's a lot of active requests for various resources that are out there right now. So our office has been involved with a handful of those already. So yeah, well said.
One quick question, Blake. Is it my understanding that the EMAC process also has the ability to account for backfill costs? So if you are a COML that, let's say, goes out the door, there is a method at which that destination location can be covering your backfill for your primary position at your PSAP or your organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, the way it works really is, the requesting state puts out what they're looking for, and then we as the assisting state would basically provide our offer, which includes capabilities, timeline, time frame, and cost. So as we outline those costs, you can put in whatever that might be, and if backfill is one of those costs, and that's great. And then it's up to the requesting state to accept it or not. And there might be various reasons why they might turn down that offer, and it's kind of time frame. There might be a resource that's closer or cheaper. So all of those kind of factors come into play. It's not, you can do a lot of the paperwork and then come to find out that it's no longer needed for various reasons. So just something to keep in mind if you are interested. It's just because you raise your hand doesn't mean you're necessarily going out the door.
Any questions? Okay, any other information sharing amongst board members? Okay, next up is the system administrator report. Scott Richardson.
Thank you. Not a lot to report new this month. The RFPMs will be wrapping up on the 24th, and that last site should be the Rock Rapids site in Lyon County. Also, everyone should be aware of the Astro system upgrade, which is scheduled for early December. With that, the database freeze.
Can you hear?
What?
I can't hear, sorry.
With that, the database freeze will be occurring from November 11th through November 4th. And we request everyone to have any changes that need to be made to the database into us by the week of November 4th. Any radio ads, alias changes, that kind of thing, we want to capture those before this database freeze. When they reinstate the database, anything that was done within the window of November 11th through November 4th will not be captured now, have to be tracked manually and re-input. So we'd like everyone to hold any changes during that database freeze window. Beyond that, our numbers for the month of September were radios at 39,841, and that's up 417 from the previous month. Talk ropes are at 3,411, that was up 55, and our push to talks are at 2.9 million, and that was down about 226,000 from the previous month. And with that, concludes my report.
Thanks. Any questions for Scott? All right, up next is FirstNet Authority, Tom Lampy.
I don't think he's on.
Okay.
I think he's gone.
And after that is the AT&T update with Bart Blank.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm kind of just getting adjusted to these calls now that Tyler has moved on. I guess we used to cover kind of like tower upgrades in the past, but one of the biggest initiatives across the state now is a lot of our upgrades with our network modernization, which is going to result in 90% of the towers in all of Iowa being upgraded to 5G C-band over the next 2 years. So those are starting to ramp up, especially as we get to 2025. I've been getting about one a week now, and I'm trying my best to reach out to all the potentially affected agencies on FirstNet with these upgrades. But some of the highlights over the last month, we've had 2 towers in Waterloo, 2 in Des Moines, 1 in Ankeny, 1 on the north side of Davenport, and now 1's currently being worked on in Comanche over on the east side, and then there's one that's going to be worked on next week in Wapello County. They're all being receiving upgrades, and with the C-band upgrade, the biggest thing is the throughput, right? We have 5G, there's different layers. C-band is that sweet spot of 5G where it really increases both your upload and download speeds on the 5G network. So most of these towers, depending on, of course, relationship of the tower, you can start seeing upwards of 300 to 400 megabytes down and then 30 to 50 megs upload. So as those come through, I will reach out to the affected agencies and kind of give an update of the downtimes, what's happening, overlapping coverage. And as always, if anybody has questions about upcoming upgrades or what's going on, please reach out offline and I'm glad to walk you through what's going on. That's the update I have today. Thanks.
Any questions for Bart? Thank you. Up next is the CISA update with Chris Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and good morning to the board and stakeholders. Thanks once again for having me on. I'll let Holly pull the slides up here really quick because there's some good slides here that you may want to take a picture of two of them. First slide, maybe not picture worthy, but it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So on the next slide, you'll kind of see that it is the 21st rendition of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This is an important partnership between government and industry. And there we go. Should be up now. If anybody can't see the slides, just feel free to jump in really quick because I do want to make sure you see at least two of these. Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2024. This is a big collaboration with industry and government. It's kind of unique in that sense. There's 4 simple steps this year that all align with the theme of secure our world as our world becomes more interconnected, especially from the IT and OT side of the world. You want to make sure that all of your logins are locked down with strong passwords. And if you have a lot of passwords, a password manager might be a good thing to consider. The old standard nomenclature is that a 16-character password is ideal. That's a little bit difficult to remember, even for the most astute of us. So those password managers can be very helpful. One thing too with those passwords, the big reason to make sure they're strong passwords is because a lot of the compromises we've seen this past year or so have been with what's called a password spraying attack, where an adversary will automatically try to shoot a bunch of passwords at something it's trying to get into and see what they can find. So in addition to strong passwords, you always want to make sure you have lockout procedures built into anything that you log into. On the topic of logging into things, multi-factor authentication is another big one to have. With some of the incidents we've had this past year with compromises and even years prior, multi-factor authentication would have prevented a lot of them. And in some cases, they estimate that having multi-factor will prevent about 90% or more of potential compromises. So this is a big one to have too. This can be done through SMS text messaging or some of those authenticator apps, depending on what you prefer. But the big thing is just making sure you are using multi-factor authentication. The third bullet point talks about the human condition and cybersecurity, and that humans are often our biggest vulnerability with cybersecurity. Think before you click on phishing emails. Our adversaries are getting far more sophisticated at developing emails that look legitimate, both in terms of spelling, grammar, sentence structure, anything related to what you may read, and also images. They're getting very good at producing fake images through AI or other types of editing techniques so it looks legitimate. Think before you click. If you do get something that is unexpected, it is generally a good idea to call the person that sent it to you, if you know them. Say, hey, did you send this to me? Before you open up anything or click on any links. Lastly, you can keep your devices safe by making sure software is updated regularly and also enabling automatic updates. Generally speaking, this will help close a lot of holes that are out there on the internet and with the technology you may interface with. Just Google Cybersecurity Awareness Month on our website and you'll come up with all the materials that are available. Now the next 2 slides are going to talk about a new advanced persistent threat actor called Salt Typhoon. Did not pick the name on this one, but it is expected that they are linked to the People's Republic of China, and they first appeared in open source news on September 25th. What we're seeing so far is that these threat actors are very similar to other actors such as Flax Typhoon, Volt Typhoon, and Ghost Emperor. They are all very good at getting into a system and burying themselves exceptionally deep into those systems. Given that they are relatively new, we don't have defined indicators of compromise or tactics and techniques and procedures just yet. Those are still being investigated and aggregated together. And once they are available, there will likely be a cybersecurity advisory that comes out that talks specifically about Salt Typhoon. Now, the big thing for this group here, Open source news articles suggest that targets of Salt Typhoon include communication systems, both public and private, espionage, pre-positioning, and potential disruption. Now, some of the things we've seen from them so far is that they are very similar in behavior to what we've seen with Volt Typhoon that targeted utility systems, such as power distribution. They will hide very deep in a system, and you may not know that they are there unless you are looking at the logs very closely for any outbound or inbound packets to or from China. In many cases, you may only have 1 or 2 packets that go through your system maybe once a week, once a month. They are very quiet, and they use methods that are very similar to living off the land, where they'll figure out what is on those systems and how to do what they want to do without being detected. So feel free to take a picture of this slide really quick if you want to, and show this to your IT people. The next slide talks about what we think we may see from them with respect to potential indicators of compromise and tactics and techniques and procedures. These are common, vulnerabilities and exposure bulletins that are released. There are generally a lot of these that come out each month, but we think that Salt Typhoon's behavior and other things associated with them may fall into some of those CVEs. If you take a picture of this slide, show it to your IT group and say, hey, based on these and based on what's been found with these other threat actors, are we vulnerable? That would probably be a pretty good start. So feel free to take a picture of that slide. I'll give you, a little bit here to kind of do that if you choose to, but please socialize this with your IT groups, because we have seen that they are targeting communication systems. You can read more about them online. There's been more open source news articles that have come out since September 25th, and they do offer some more information as well. Now, on a happier note, the next slide, we are going to talk about a new document that came out called Principles of Operational Technology Cybersecurity. IT and OT worlds are expanding, and in your communication systems, you likely have a lot of OT that helps you monitor the system, maintain the system, and do all sorts of things with it. This document was released by CISA and with several international partners, and it covers 6 key principles that you should consider when you're looking at OT in your infrastructure. First and foremost, safety is paramount. And you also have to have extensive knowledge of the business model you're trying to produce with this. And public safety tends to have a slightly different business model than, say, the private sector. OT data is also extremely valuable and needs to be protected. A lot of the targets of some of our adversaries are that operational technology data that systems produce on a daily basis. You want to make sure your networks are segmented and compartmentalized as much as you can from other networks, and also make sure that you have an understanding of what your supply chain looks like. This is a difficult one to always fully understand, just because supply chains can be very complex, but supply chain compromises can be an issue. If you think back to an issue we had with SolarWinds back in the early 2020s, where an update process was compromised and allowed a nefarious actor potentially gain access to systems, that type of supply chain is important to understand. Also, people. They are essential for IT security and OT cybersecurity, so make sure your people are properly trained. This is available if you search Principles of Operational Technology Cybersecurity. You'll find a link to it on our website that will then link you to the official release page. Last new bulletin for the month is that we do have a new portal for cybersecurity incident reporting on the next slide. This is a continuation of what was done with CERCIA's signing into law in 2022. This is entirely voluntary. If you have a cyber incident, you can actually log on to the website that says myservices.cisa.gov/IRF. And what this will allow you to do is voluntarily report the incident. Now, this is based on information sharing. You are allowed to share what you want to and not share what you don't. You will be able to see some other information as well that has been submitted by other groups. Of course, it's sanitized as much as it can be, but this is available now as a resource both for reporting and for information gathering in a closed environment and setting. Finally, regional news of note, we do have TA requests that are coming in now. The open period for October 2024 has started. Iowa has submitted TA requests along with the states of Kansas and Missouri within Region 7. Other regional areas that have submitted include the Kansas City area. This is part of their preparations for the FIFA World Cup that's taking place in 2026. Those requests were endorsed by the Kansas and Missouri SWICs both. And the nice thing about those courses that will be brought into Kansas City is that they will be open regionally. So if you have some personnel in Iowa that do want to take a course and there's ability to travel, that will be an option, as those will be open to regional personnel. Now, as these requests are processed and hopefully signed off on and delivered, I'll keep you updated on any process that's taking place. Unrelated to the FIFA request, we do have a COML course that starts next week in Olathe, Kansas. That begins on October 14th and ends on Thursday of next week. That is my report, Mr. Vice Chair. I can go ahead and take any questions.
All right, thanks, Chris. Up next is old business, which there is none. So moving on is item 16, new business, and the first part is approval of 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 2.8.0, requesting access and participation. Would you like to address that quickly?
Sure.
Quickly.
Yeah, I think most of the committees, all of the committees have had an awareness of this. There's been some, I would say, major revisions to this standard, but mostly what has happened is standard 2.9 has been moved under this standard to the plan amendment. And so we're looking for a 30-day comment period to review the recommended changes that have been submitted by the user group committee. Are there any questions on the changes that you see in red? Do you want me to pull it up? Sure, for the people online, maybe if they have any questions. I can discuss it further if anyone has questions.
Does anybody have any questions on this? Okay, so we are looking for a motion to approve for a 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 2.8.0. Do we have a motion on that?
I would so move. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. That has been approved for 30-day comment. Up next is approval for 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 3.11.0, talk group site access and roaming. Holly, if you can pull that up. Yeah. Again, we went through this, we've been going through this. We, I think, tried to do our due diligence on this, and we feel like we're in a position to go ahead and have it put out there for everybody to look at and comment on, and if there's something that they don't like, well, then we'll review it again, but I think we feel pretty confident about it, so,
Ness moves.
do we have a second on the approval of 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 3.11.0?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. So that has passed. Approval of 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 3.11.0. Next up is approval of a 30-day comment on Isicsb Standard 5.1.0, hospital access.
Okay, so this came about through our REM CDP or IMED grant project and went through the user group committee. The changes to this, there's a lot of red, but that's just adding some definitions in there. What really changed is the first paragraph, section 1, purpose or objective. It used to say it does not apply to hospital emergency medical services, and we've changed that to the standard applies to hospital emergency medical services. communications, inter-hospital compacts, and hospital security operations, just to align with the current practices of Isicsb and hospital communications. The rest of the red is really just adding some language and included a hospital definition that was supplied to us by Cindy Hike through Health and Human Services. Are there any questions for me on this standard?
Okay, so we are seeking a motion for approval of 30-day comment on Isicsb standard 5.1.0.
Erpelding will make a motion.
Benson will second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The approval for 30-day comment on Isicsb standard 5.1.0 has been approved. Up next is approval of CompT course TA request.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. So this is my mistake. Last month, I forgot to add the CompT request to the TA request that were on the list. So I'm asking that a CompT is added to the request that ECC Myers helps us submit through CISA, along with the other requests for COMEL, INTD, and INCM that I will request. We have interest in that course.
So we are looking for a motion of approval on CompT course TA request as outlined by Haley Nichols.
A motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The approval for CompT course TA request has been approved.
Thank you. And then Part E, I'm sorry that there was a mix-up in the calendar, so INTD credentialing for Stephanie Norris will happen next month in November.
Okay. Up next is public comment. Anyone who'd like to speak up, now's your time. Come on, Dave. Okay, hearing no public comment, up next is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Benson.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now adjourned.